Hey, y'all, it's me, your host, Coach Pilar Arthur Sneed. Thanks so much for joining me here for another episode of the Last 10th podcast. Every week, I get to talk to some of the most interesting and fabulous people in the world of running. And of course, you know that this week is no different. I am super, super excited to welcome April Pullins to the show. She is definitely a wife, definitely a mom. New runner. So I'm really looking forward to listening to and hearing about April's story. She also has some training in sign language, American Sign Language for deaf children, but now she is an amazing entrepreneur. So April, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pilar. Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure, really a pleasure. So the thing that I mentioned that on your Instagram profile, that how I came across your profile was seeing you signing and thinking to myself, wow, you don't see a lot of women of color who are involved in American Sign Language. And then I saw that you are a runner. Not saying you need to start with these two things. What I really, really love, that's just what interested me about getting to know you. What I really love for folks to do is to just introduce themselves. So tell me a little bit about you. Anything you'd like to share?
Thank you. So I am a mom, a wife. I have three boys. Funny thing,
Wow.
I have two college students and a kindergartner.
Wow.
Same husband.
Wow.
Was not planned, but here he is. I'm originally from Chicago, moved to Arizona, and now we live here in the Atlanta area. And I am an entrepreneur. I used to work as an educator, as a deaf educator, and I knew in eighth grade I wanted to work with deaf kids. I had
Wow.
my vision classroom with the deaf kids. I didn't know what school happened to have a school in our state that had it, and that's what I did.
Wow. How did you know that such a young age that that was something that you wanted to do?
Great question. I sang with a citywide choir in
Mm,
Chicago called the Soul Children of Chicago, and we
mm,
sang everywhere.
mm,
And one of the choir members at the time, we were all maybe sixth, seventh, eighth graders. And so he had sign language knowledge and he would teach us some of the songs. And of
mm.
course, like all kids are like, oh my God, that's so beautiful.
Right, right.
And so, because he was from a family that had a deaf person, it was like, get out of my face. It's not
Uh-huh.
beautiful. It's a language. And so he just blew me off. And I was
Yes.
like, no, I'm going to learn this. And matter of fact, since I'm not becoming a doctor,
Yeah.
because I thought, in kindergarten, I'm going to be a doctor. I said,
Yes.
oh, I know I want to be a teacher. Oh, maybe I can teach that. I had no
Yes.
idea if it was a program. And in high school, I found out that Illinois State had a program, and there we went.
Wow. I myself am always in awe of folks who have a pretty fairly good idea at such a young age about what it is that they would like to do as a profession. I can't say that I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to study, but I didn't know what I would do with what I wanted to study. And as it turns out, what I wanted to study and all the things that I've done, there's just, it's complete, like not even related at all. It's so unrelated, totally unrelated. But yeah, so I'm just in awe of that. So you decided to go to school, obviously, get your college degree. Tell me a little bit more about that trajectory once you were in
Yeah.
high school and
So
going
I
forward.
went to Illinois State, and it wasn't far from home because I'm from Chicago, and started taking all the classes. I felt like I was somebody special because I knew how to sign, but I really
Mm,
didn't. It was
mm,
book knowledge.
mm,
And when I graduated, I had an idea. I want to work in an elementary school
mm,
classroom. And that is not where I ended up.
Understood.
My first job was an itinerant teacher at a co-op. And I was a little bit perturbed because I was just like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. My husband at the time, we had just gotten married. We were college sweethearts. And he was in criminal justice. And so he wanted to find something in that field. Couldn't find anything in my hometown of Chicago, moved to his hometown. And the only job was an itinerant teacher where you travel and you saw kids in different schools. And I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yes.
But it turned out to be the most amazing experience ever because it had flexibility. And that's where I kind of started to see, this is kind of like being an entrepreneur. Because I could
Yes.
go in and I wasn't under anybody, and specifically, nobody was my boss. I could eat lunch when I wanted to. And then eventually I did get in a classroom and I was like, okay, this is nice too.
Yes.
And I did kindergarten, I did middle school, I did high school, and my favorite age were middle school kids.
Really?
And because they're crazy. And everybody who teaches or has middle school students, they know wacko, wacko. Nobody wants to.
Okay. So I totally know because I teach ESL. Okay. So, and my like 8, 9, 10-year-old students, particularly my male students, it's a trip. It is a trip sometimes.
Yeah. And I would always get them. I would always get the behavioral kids. No matter what school, what city, what state, they were like, give them to April. So that, I guess that told me that, hey, I had a lot of patience.
Yes.
But I always ended up, I remember I was at a school here in Georgia, and sadly, there was a couple of teachers, they were like, I'm not taking them. I am not doing it this year.
Right.
And I just thought, how can you say that?
You're right.
On in education, how could you possibly say no way, no way?
Mm.
And I said, well, give them to me. And that was a year. We got no teaching done that year. It was a lot of now I won't go to jail because I'm not in that position. But we were restraining a lot of kids that entire year.
Yeah.
And but I had such a love for those kids because I got a chance to go into their homes and I saw the reason why that third graders were just out of sorts. Deaf kids living in darkness. Their houses were like no light in them.
Wow.
Their mom would say, go, sit. That's the only communication that they had. And I'm thinking, are you talking to a dog?
Wow.
And so I could see, oh, wow, I see why this young man is
having
not
so much of a struggle.
Yeah.
So,
and I always love the boys too. The boys.
I usually always say that boy energy. I don't know. That boy energy.
I think that's why I have 3 boys.
Yes. So you've now, in terms of your career, you've kind of moved on from working in schools. I guess my question would be, even before jumping to that conversation, like, how did working with your students and then also subsequently seeing some of the conditions that they were living in, how did that affect you, personally, just I guess in terms of like maybe how you might advocate for folks with disabilities? Did it have impact on you?
Huge impact, huge. Still to this day, I have friendships with parents that I've taught kids 20 years ago.
Wow.
Because oftentimes I was the only person who would say, hey, listen, you want to keep an eye on this principal. They don't have the best interest in mind for your kid. And then coming out of the education, system now being an interpreter
Mm-hmm.
and having knowledge of the education system. It's just really helped me to see why things are the way that they are. And so trying to make changes without, like for example, in the position that I'm in right now, he's a young high school student. He's still kind of, trying to figure out his way around being in high school, but I want him to advocate for himself. And
Absolutely.
oftentimes in middle school and elementary school, being a deaf educator, they do everything.
Mm-hmm.
They want to hit. And then when you get to high school, it's like, no, you got to advocate. Well, they've never learned that. So
Right.
now I will, when students come up to me, Miss Pullins, how do you sign? And I say, you need to have a conversation with him. And so that way he can take control of, being an advocate for himself. I'm like, you can
Absolutely.
actually hear a little bit, on your phone. But I'm just an accessory here. Go do what you do. But I
Absolutely.
love it. I absolutely love it. I sometimes have to find myself, I make mistakes.
Mm.
Um, I have a couple close friends who say, you should have did this when you did that. I'm like, you're right. You're right. Because
Like for instance.
there was one time um, we had a big conference, and this was really tough for me because I was the interpreter. Also, I was a part of the conference, so I was
Ah,
running.
yes.
And so the roles were a little bit crossed. And so these were adults now, people were coming up saying, oh my God, your signs, you know how people do. I love
Yes.
how you sign. And I didn't shift the focus to the deaf adults that were there. That's their native language. And
Right.
so one of my good friends, she was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to pull your coattail on this because
Mm.
next time. And I was like, you're right. But I was so focused on, let me get the job done. I'm here for this. And I was
Right.
like, you are absolutely right.
Right. So it's sort of a situation of it, it often talked about when we're in spaces where they're, and in this particular case we're talking about able-bodied or hearing able folks and not hearing able folks, and the not hearing able folks are the folks who are in the marginalized community even
Yes.
still, and centering those folks in the conversation, and allowing, as you said, allowing those folks to be able to have the voice, as opposed to the other people who they're totally not used to
Right.
not having,
Right.
and they're like, give me more.
Uh-huh. And I so appreciate that you are the only person that I've met who's not in the deaf community
Mm,
who's used the term hearing versus non-hearing. Most
mm,
people say hard of hearing,
mm,
which is acceptable, but 99% they'll say hearing impaired, which
mm.
is
Right.
and so I'm often like, yeah, no, that's not the appropriate term. Deaf
Right.
is appropriate. Deaf
Mm,
is definitely
mm.
appropriate. But when you said that, I was like, wow, she's got some knowledge here. I really appreciate that.
A lot of it, I don't even think I do, but I don't even think I do. A lot of it comes from just interacting with so many different kinds of people and becoming somewhat intuitive, I guess, if that makes any sense. And part of like my hope with this show and having all these different conversations is to help other people become a little bit more intuitive in that, like, you know,
Yeah.
we're all people,
Yes.
but if you think about it from your own perspective, like, how would you like to be referred to?
Exactly.
Right.
Because when people say hearing impaired, that means that you're broken
That's right.
and you need to be fixed, which
That's
is
right.
the common view in the medical world.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So talk to me about a little bit more about your about that particular sort of like rub, I guess, being a hearing person in a not hearing world,
Mhm.
and any of the challenges that you might have faced in, you know,
Yeah, in that world, it's
mhm.
so first when I went to college, and when you go to college, you think you know everything.
Of course.
Anybody that's watching here was a college student. Baby, you don't know. You have no
Of
idea.
course. Of course. It's just a factor of being like an 18-year-old kid
You're like,
and,
yes,
and
I've
going into
arrived.
you have a lot of confidence and
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yes. And when I left, I actually wasn't taught the native form of ASL. I
Mm.
was taught I was taught the hearing form, the English form.
I
And then
see.
that was again um, paternalistic. We've
Mhm.
come a long way, but we still have that where this is the right way to sign
Mm.
and ignoring people who are native signers. And so I came away and I'm signing in schools and I'm thinking I'm doing a fantastic job. And then when I really meet people who, like from DC, there's a college called Gallaudet University, and it's the
Yes,
only
yes.
university for deaf
Mhm.
people. And when I got on campus, and I was like, "Oh, you don't know anything. You got
They're
to learn this all over again."
they're
And they're
like,
looking
"Oh,
at me
you went to college for this, didn't you?"
like that. Yeah, and so they are deaf people are so they want you to understand and learn. And so if you're willing, they will accept you with open arms, and so they will teach you. And a lot of people have learned American Sign Language just from being in that community.
Mm,
And I tell people now, they say, "Well, how can I learn? And where can I go to school?" And I say, "Get around deaf people, just
that's
like
right.
Spanish, just like any
Abs-
other language, just
Absolutely.
immerse in the culture, just like Black folks. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
You want to learn how to braid hair, you want to
That's
learn how
right.
to cook jambalaya,
That's right.
come in the
That's right.
kitchen."
That's right. That's right. That's right. Exactly. You want to know how to be and do and exist and be more like we were just saying, you want to be more intuitive within this particular culture. You have to immerse yourself in the culture. And then also, like we said, you have to allow the people who are part of that culture to be center
Yes,
in their culture and show you what they're willing to show you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my challenges right now with running, whenever I post, I'm always mindful of my community.
Mm,
So if it's not accessible, I can't post it.
mm.
And so that's probably where you've seen me on Instagram. And I'm like maybe running, I'm signing with one hand, trying to
Yes.
make sure that I'm signing in the frame,
Yes.
because I do have runner friends that are deaf.
Ah.
And they've inspired me. One particular young lady, Sally, she's in her 60s, but she's run for years, at least 30 years here in
Yes.
Georgia.
Yes.
And so when I did the peach tree, she was cheering me on. She's like, "This is my like not 40th." It was like 20, 25 times.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
like, "You've run the peach tree 25 times?" She's like,
Wow.
"Yeah." And I'm
Wow.
like, but for me, it's just a natural thing. People go, "Why, why are you sighing? There's nobody deaf.
That's okay. But I mean, that's
My
okay. I
community's
think
always watching." Yeah.
absolutely. I would say, I would even go even further than saying that's okay. I would say that that's brilliant, because what that means is that the cultural, the culture has become, become a part of you, and you understand and you know what it's to be it within the culture. You don't necessarily know what it's like to be a
Mhm.
non-hearing person,
Right.
but you have a sense of like it's just like being black, right?
Right.
Everywhere you go, you're black.
Right. 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 And they
And
will
take
tell
it
you.
off.
They will tell you. One of my good friends on Facebook a few years ago, something happened with the captions, and she was on there. She was like, "I can't hear you. I can't see you. What are you doing?" So I was like, "Okay, let me stop this live right now."
Yes,
And she
yes.
was like, "No, this is not what we do."
That's right. That's right. So let's talk about let's talk about running.
I'm excited. I'm so excited
How
about it.
how did you get started as a runner?
Well, first, let me say I am just coming to believing that I am a runner
All right.
for a long time. I started running a year ago. For a
Okay.
long time, I was trying to run. I want to be a runner.
Yes.
And this year, I really did a lot of research and like really immersed myself into the culture.
Absolutely.
So when I started pretending like I was going to do something with running when I lived in Arizona, probably about 10, 12 years ago. My
Okay.
sister-in-law was doing things. She was running. Her mom had passed away and she wanted to just run the grief away. She wanted to live healthier. And she started training for marathons. And I was like, that is something else because it was Arizona and it was in the summertime.
That's right.
Like, this is crazy. So I was just watching and in awe. And she did a few marathons. And so I never was like, oh, I'm going to do a marathon. I just thought this is really cool. So then when I started having difficulty in my life, I thought, I'm just going to run away from everything.
Yes.
And I got out, and it's weird because Arizona is so very different. The terrain is so very different. Desert trees, rocks everywhere, and a lot of people, oh, it's not beautiful. But when I got out there, I was like, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The tree trunks were green. It was just things you never noticed before. And so I started just running out of frustration. And I was like, this feels good to me.
Mm-hmm.
And things got better in my life, and I just went back to doing regular stuff. But I always was like, what if? What if I actually could do something with this? I don't know what that is. Not definitely not a marathon, but what if I could run a little bit? So that was on hold until the pandemic.
Yes.
And then my girlfriend lost 70 pounds and she was out there signing and running.
Yes.
And I said, how did you lose 70 pounds? And I'm a little thin child. I'm not trying to lose weight. Matter of fact, I had done keto and was looking like a skeleton. My friends was like, I should have told you, but why didn't you tell me? You had me out here looking horrible. But anyway, she was like, I started running and I said, oh, well, can you tell me a little bit about it? And she connected me to it was the BGR. No, not
Yes.
my girlfriend. I was
Yes.
already in there, but I wasn't really in there.
Yes.
The other group, the other red and black group.
BGR is pink and black. Maybe
Red and black.
Was it an Atlanta based run group?
Mm-mm. They're going to be mad at me that I can't think of the name, but
there's also Latinas Run or Latinas Running.
It's a black group, and guys and gals.
Oh, good question. I know that there is an Atlanta-based one, and I just talked about it with somebody else on another show, but it's okay. They'll forgive.
Yeah, but I just the community of people. Yes. And I could ask questions and not feel stupid. I was in a beginners group, but it was kind of international. I didn't know what the kilometer, none of that. I was like, I don't know. I just want to get out here and run.
Yes.
And when I started running, again, that feeling of, ooh, this makes me feel so good.
Yes.
And the day that I was able to run, because I started off, I could not run 60 seconds.
Of course.
It's funny because people look at you and go, but you're thin. Why can't you? Never was an athlete, never ran, never did any sports. And I was like,
my husband worked with this guy who he told him that I was going to be running, I was going to be running a marathon and sometime, and he was like, oh, I could totally do that. And I was like, okay. And he comes home, he tells me this. I was like, does he run now? He's like, no, he doesn't run now. I was like, okay, well, I'd like to see him try. Because you do have to train your body.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't looking to do anything other than challenge myself to be committed. And when I hit the 2-mile mark, I remember crying. And one of the ladies that I got connected with, Ethel, I can't think of Ethel's last name right now, but Ethel's out here running ultras every other day. Okay. I'm sure you know her from Miami. And
Okay.
so she was kind of being encouraging. And so when I ran it, I came home and my husband could care less. He could care less. And so I came home and I was like, I just did it. I
Yes.
went 2 miles nonstop. I can't believe it. And it was probably like 16-mile pace. I mean, it was,
Yeah, that's okay.
but I was just like so proud of myself because I couldn't do 60 seconds. And so he
Yes.
was like, anybody can run, anybody can run 3 miles. And I was just like,
And you need to tell you can tell him that's actually not true.
it's not true.
Not true.
I had
Not
him
true.
run for a birthday and he realized maybe I need to take that back because he did 4.3 miles. And yeah, he realized, no, that train.
It's not so easy.
Not
It's not
so
as easy
easy.
as it looks.
No, but that really, it set me afire because number one, I had accomplished something that I've been consistent. I'm somebody who's spontaneous. I like, I'm not a great planner. And for me to be able to do that, I was like, okay, what's next? And then
Yes.
you would say, I'm doing a race. You want to join me? Okay.
I'm in.
And so I just started like connecting with people
Yes.
and asking questions and going on YouTube, staying up till 2 a.m. in the morning.
For real?
Seriously. My husband was like, you are out of control. And I think even today, some of my friends, even my mom, she says, why are you running so much? What are you running from? Like older women are like, why are you doing this to your body?
Yes.
Because she doesn't understand exercise. She doesn't understand, like they never ran unless it was running from something.
Of course.
And I love it. I'm still very slow and I wear 2 watches. Please don't laugh.
Two watches. Why?
I'm really trying to not be type A. I have my iPhone thing and then I have my Garmin and I want to track it in my map my runs, but I also want to have my Garmin because it's more accurate. My coach is like, I need you to stop.
You could just use your Garmin. It'll be sufficient because you can actually put Garmin in Map My Run.
That might even take off some time. Allow me. See, I learn something every day. Thank you.
You can use Map My Run. You can use Strava. You can even use the Garmin app. You've got 3 choices.
Wow.
Yes.
I've learned something new today.
Yes. Yes.
You know how they say you're this old when you learn that I am today old. Okay.
So you decided you've said a couple of things that really piqued my interest. So the first thing is that you decided, because this is something that myself in my own coaching practice, I'm always talking about. You said that you wanted to become committed. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit more about that. What was the moment?
It was a moment. I actually filmed it.
Yeah.
It was February. I think it was 2019 before the pandemic. And I was sitting outside on my porch. I had my hat on and I wanted to do in my business. I also wanted to take my business, my health, everything the next 90 days to another level because I had been depressed and I was just not excited about things. And so I sat there, I filmed myself and I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to have to film myself to be accountable to somebody else because if I just say I'm going to do it, nothing's going to happen. Like I'll do it for a week and then I'm like, And so I sat there and did a live and people were like, oh, it's okay. And I was like, no, it's not okay. Like I can't be in this place complaining and wanting a change, but I'm not ready to make a change. I'm not doing anything about it. So I had on a hoodie. I remember the hoodie was one of my church hoodies. Yeah. And I had on some Nike shoes that they weren't really running shoes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, here I go. I'm going to put one shoe on at a time. And I got out there and I jogged for, I don't know, maybe a minute or two. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, but it wasn't 2019 that I was really committed, but that was the moment where I was like, something's got to change. And so from that moment, though, I got therapy. I started doing things that was helpful to me.
Absolutely.
And then when it all came together was when my friend said, hey, listen, I lost 70 pounds. And I said, have you ever run though? She's like, never in my life.
No.
And it was like, here, okay, you've never run. I've never run. You lost 70 pounds. And she was running at that point, I think 10 to 13 miles.
Wow.
And I said, okay.
You said, okay.
I can do it.
I can do this.
Yep.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Yes. So what is it that is keeping you going on the daily?
The feeling that you get after a run, definitely. It makes me feel alive. It makes me feel thankful. Being outdoors. So I got a used treadmill. I was so glad that I didn't buy a new one because everybody was saying, you're probably not going to run on that baby a lot. And I haven't, but I've used it. But I'm glad that I didn't pay extreme amounts of money because I love being outdoors.
Absolutely.
I think that's the piece that I didn't realize, coupled with how I feel after run, because I hate it when I run. I really do. When I'm running right now, because my body's still trying to figure out, what are you doing?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? Your heart is at 177 beats per minute. All these other people are like, oh, mine's 135.
It just takes time. It takes time. The other part of that, though, too, like practically speaking, you're cracking me up. The other part is that if your heart rate is like really too high, depending on, I don't know how fast you're going, but if your heart rate's too high, you know what that means you need to do? Slow down.
But that's the problem that I have, because I should be. Right?
You know what? I'm speechless, right? Talked about this issue so much, and we should definitely delve into this, right?
Yeah.
So many runners, especially when we get started. Yeah. And I would even say, even for myself now, there's two things. And we actually had like a very brief interaction on Instagram where I made a post about how I started running like 7 years ago or something like this. And you said, like, I'm thankful that, I am where I am. It's this issue of comparison, right? You cannot compare yourself to this person over here. And it literally doesn't even matter how long like that person has been running in terms of the comparison, right? You can't compare yourself to someone else and say, oh, my results and your results should be the same, because you're in two separate bodies.
Yeah. It's so logical that you say all of this. But I just thought about this too the other day, because these people on these pages, these elite runners, these people that have, lengthy careers, they say the same thing: your pace, your race, right? But oftentimes when you see them post, they're raving about, oh, I can't believe, I got, it was 8. I should have been at 7. And I'm like, okay, you're telling me, but you're frustrated that you got 8. So I know, like, I believe it, but I know there's still some.
I get it. I get it. I do. I think that the difference is that, at least for me now, there is a little bit of that I'm comparing myself, and like, because I have a friend who's like my running buddy, and we run together. His slow pace is my fast pace, right? I can keep up with him, but I'm running at like the top end of my fast pace. And I'm like, and occasionally I'm like, okay, I need 30 seconds because I just got to rest a little bit, right? And I'm looking at him like, oh, look at those paces. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know, and for him, if he were to say, oh, this pace was super slow, like you're looking at your own, you're looking at your own paces. When I think when you're talking about that, like if I look at my fast pace or my slow pace, I'm like, oh, I could do better.
Mhm.
It's a competition with yourself.
Absolutely.
I do
Absolutely.
think it takes time as a new runner to get to that place where you feel
Yeah.
comfortable
I
about.
enjoy, there are many runs that I do enjoy.
Mm,
And those are the runs where I say, April, just go out here, just be grateful and just
mm,
run.
mm,
Someone mentioned, they said something that really hit home, and it's so simple. They said, you have baby legs. And I was
mm,
like, that is like, if you think of a baby, you don't
mm.
expect a baby to get up and start running around the table.
That's right.
They're
That's right.
wobbly, you know. And so even though I feel like as a year, I should be a little further along. Like
Mm,
my pace, I feel like my pace has been steady.
mm.
But I can also say that my breathing is better.
Ah,
You know, certain things have gotten better. My pace hasn't really gotten better,
mm,
which sometimes it's frustrating because that is what you say, oh, well, if I'm supposed to be a runner, then I have to be at this pace. And the
right.
walking thing too, I'm still trying to I'm my one of my mentors, he
Mm,
says, when you train, I don't really like the walking method. And
mm,
I hadn't been using the walking method when Ethel was saying to me, you know, just try to slow down your pace when you
mm,
run, just slow it
mm,
down so you can
mm,
recover. So
mm.
I found that helpful, but a lot of people are like, well, you know, if you walk and run and walk, you'll actually avoid injury. So I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Understood. 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 Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely this trajectory that you kind of go through at your first starting out of just trying to figure out like what's going to be the best way for me to learn how to do this for
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
because you're going to get a lot of advice from a lot of people. People are going to tell you to do all kinds of people are going to
Mhm.
tell you to do all kinds of things,
Yeah.
but there's only one you, and there
Mhm.
you only have your body, and so you will know what feels best for you when you kind of find it. And I think you're doing all the right things in that you're trying a lot
Mhm.
of different things.
Yeah. Yeah. I am a lot. The picture that I sent you, I said, let me not send her this picture, but I said, let me send her the picture because I got to tell you what happened. That was
Yes.
the recent 10K. You saw I had like I was going on an ultra. Like you were, I had the vest on. I had at least 500 milliliters of water. I had a real peanut butter and jelly sandwich in the bag. I had a waffle. I had a fruit chew, like the one you buy from the corner store in Chicago.
It's
I
okay.
mean, I had two headphones, mhm, just in case, sunglasses. And so when that shot was taken, and I had my phone and the GoPro, I was just so excited to be there. But after I got home, I was like, girl,
You
you
don't need all
had
that.
way too much stuff.
I, April, I totally get it. When I ran when I ran my first marathon, I literally packed everything on my person except for the kitchen sink. I did. I swear to God. I had like I was like because I like you, I did all this research. I went online. I was like, well, what do I need to take with me? What do I got to have? And people are like, you should take this, this, and this, and this, and this. I had wet naps, I had food, I had water, I had everything. And it's all just sort of like it's in my pockets, it's in my pack. I mean, it was
The squirrel.
bursting out of my, it's bursting out. And let me tell you something. Everything you do in this process is a learning, right?
Yeah,
If you don't learn something, then you're not the better for it. I learned
yeah.
something. I was like, you know what? Next time I do this, you do not need to take all that mess with you. Your husband will be there. You can give it to him and he will meet you at a place and you can get it from him.
Yeah. I had no idea. I was like, wow, you could have run faster
So
if you didn't have all that stuff.
you are not you are not alone in this. I should do like a show, things
You
that we
really-
first did when the first time we ever ran.
There were, of course, men without shirts and just shorts. I was like,
They didn't take any water with them.
nothing. My coach later was like, they have water stations. I was like, for COVID, I didn't know how far they were going to be.
I don't
I
know.
just wanted to be safe.
I understand. I totally get it. I totally get it. I totally understand that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So what in this running journey, what are some things that have inspired you?
First of all, seeing Black people run.
Yes.
That initially, when I thought I was going to pretend to run, that was like, wow, because Black girls run. And I was like, oh my gosh. Growing up, I wasn't in sports. And so it was basketball, football, and volleyball where I was growing up at. And you never saw people running.
Hmm.
And so I thought, wow, this is really impressive. And then to see some elite runners and marathoners and ultras, and I was like, where are y'all coming from? But I think because of the internet, now we are more knowledgeable. Oh, wow, they've been there. They've always been there.
Yes.
One of the other things that I'm inspired by is just knowing that you can train the body to do just about anything.
Absolutely.
And me not playing sports, not knowing, running has really taught me, not just in running, I have so many lessons. I come home and I journal just about life in general and business. And every time I do something with some of my coworkers or teammates, I'm like, I got it from running. I'll go for a run and then something will hit me and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, it's always a parallel to running.
Absolutely.
I think now for the rest of my life, I'm going to always have that. Well, it relates to running.
It does. I agree.
Things for me to grow through. I haven't done a marathon. I don't know what that is. And I'm like, I know that there are lessons that I can take from that. I mean, there are tons that even just in this 1 year that I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And that's the part that I love being an educator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. What's been the most surprising thing for you on this journey?
Most surprising, other than I can actually run more than 60 seconds. I think just the detail of nutrition and hydration and running. Like running isn't the most important. People think get your shoes, go. For me, just learning that like this is a real sport. Like people actually, this is like people have careers in it, like coaches and trainers, and not just out here running on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. But I have had the hardest time the nutrition and the hydration because I don't eat very well anyway. I'm very particular about certain foods. And so now I'm learning, you really, if you want to do longer runs, you got to get the right fuel.
That's right.
And the hydration, I remember running once and I was just pooped and I didn't understand why. And I realized, oh, you were dehydrated.
Right. Right.
And how serious that is.
Just
blown. Yeah. And I don't care if you don't like water. You want to run, you better figure something out.
Better drink some water.
Yeah.
Get to drinking.
There's so much to running that I would have thought, it's just get your shoes and go. And I would have become easily bored with just that. But there's trails, there's the pavement, there is fast-paced runners. Like I watch the Olympics and I'm like, I never realized that this was really cool until now. This is pretty cool.
That's very funny because I watched like a little brief moment of Olympic weightlifting and I was like, what is this? Who are you? That you're watching the Olympics right now and thinking to yourself, my goodness, this is cool.
Yeah, yeah. I asked somebody the other day, I was like, are you watching the Olympics? They're like, no. I'm like, why not?
Why not?
Diving, I mean,
Maybe.
swimming, they have all kinds, not just track and field. But I still don't know. I'm still learning. Whenever I post, I go, I don't know what 100 meters is. I don't know what 200 meters is. So I'm counting on my Garmin or something to go.
You are cracking me up.
I literally, I have no idea, but I will. I'm gonna learn.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, I want to tell you, but I will not do that. I will allow you this journey to find for yourself. You shall find this information. You will. I promise you.
Yeah, because the other day I did a hill workout, and it was they told me YouTube 25 seconds. Yeah, 25 seconds up the hill and recovery down. So when I finished my no, it was 10, I didn't even have a mile. I was like, this is a waste.
It was a short hill.
I felt like this is a waste because normally I try to get out and at least run 4 miles. Yes. I came home, I had 2.5.
Yeah, but you did the purpose of a hill workout is for strength, is to build strength in your legs. So you did a strength running workout. So you got a lot of benefit out of that. And it'll make you faster. Hills make you stronger. And hills make you faster.
That week is gonna say you only got 7 or 8 miles that week. What happened? Those hills.
Oh my goodness. Too funny. Too funny. So if you had advice, right, I guess it's a twofold question. If there's advice that you've ever received or advice that you would like to give, and it can be advice to fellow runners who might be just starting out, or it can be any general life advice, what would it be?
Well, I would have to say that I really do like your erase your pace.
Absolutely.
I really do. I mean, it's important that people know. I think a lot of times when people start running, they think that running is a certain speed. It's not jogging. If you walk, you're not a runner. And then a lot of people get discouraged and then they don't because they're like, oh, I could never be like that. I could never be like Pilar. I could never be like April. And like I like to invite my friends who watch me on Facebook when I post. They're like, oh my God. We had a conference the other week and they said, hey guys, this is April. She runs marathons every day.
She runs those 5K marathons.
I was like, I do not run marathons. I run 3 times a week. Yes. But I definitely don't run them every day. So I just want people to feel like, listen, if you walk, if you run as slow as a turtle, you're a runner.
That's right.
And what was the other question you asked?
Oh, you could just advice. If you've been given advice, you'd like to give advice, and it could be running advice, life advice, any of it. That's it.
So many great people have poured into me, and I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for the community of runners, especially people of color.
Absolutely.
I found just a kinship too. There's a group, the Beginner Runners Group.
Yes.
A lot of them are international folks. And so one day I hope we can run together. I mean, some of these people that you meet, and it's weird because they're strangers, but you share an experience with them. You're like, you see somebody hurt their foot and you're like, oh, listen, I sent a lady, I didn't even know who she was. I sent her like a little gift, a journal.
That's so sweet. That to me is the one thing about the running community that I absolutely love. I love it, is that because we all do this thing of moving our legs, and it's so challenging, as we talked about before, right? Like most people who don't do it, they think, oh, just run, big deal. But the struggle is real, people.
Real. It's
And so
real.
everyone who has had this struggle on the pavement and that gets that running is this sort of life altering thing, we come together and we connect and
Mhm.
meet. And when we see each other in person at a race, we're like, oh my God, it's my old friend April. I can't believe it. I've known her for years.
Your mom would be like, you don't know her from a can of paint. My running friend and my coach.
That's right. Exactly. But I love that
Yeah,
about this. I love that about running. It really does make for really, I feel like, connections that you don't necessarily get in other spaces.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. April, it has been a delight to chat with you. I really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed learning about your journey in sign language and becoming a sign language interpreter. I've enjoyed learning about your running journey, and I hope that we will meet in person at a race. I think it would be beautiful.
I'm sure we will, because I'm going to find you. I'm like, what race are you? Okay,
Where are
I'll
you
meet
going to
up
be at?
if it's a marathon. I'm like, and you run ultras, so
I've run one
you would
so
run.
far, just one, just one.
That's amazing. That's
Oh
amazing.
my goodness. Oh my
Thank you
goodness.
so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, let me stop recording.